Adam, thanks so much for joining us today. Everybody, Adam Kail from Harrison Gray Search. It's an executive search firm based in Michigan. Is that right?
Yep, Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids, fantastic. Well, Adam, I appreciate you joining the podcast. We've been having fun talking to Honeit customers over the last few weeks, just kind of, so much going on in recruitment and hiring these days. Things are shifting, things are evolving. And I'm seeing that your firm is growing. So kudos to you. Sounds like the business is doing great. Was hoping on this conversation today to learn a little bit more about your firm and just talk state of the state.
For sure, man. Happy to do it. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit more about Harrison Gray Search and kind of the areas you focus on.
Yeah, so we're an executive search firm. We help companies in a few industries. First, any leadership, so C-suite, in various industries from nonprofits to Fortune 50. And then bread and butter stuff is a lot of engineering. So we have engineering clients throughout the country, from electrical engineers to plant managers, plant leaders. And then also we're in software engineering now as of late. So we got a software engineering team we're building out. And then I do a lot of finance stuff. So wealth management, private wealth, and then banking and insurance. So those are our kind of verticals, but I'm working on a director of construction search as well. It kind of varies just based on what our clients need.
Got it. Are you finding that you're in biz dev mode constantly to kind of generate new clients and recs, or do you find them coming to you, or how are you able to kind of manage that across these different sectors?
Yeah, great question. So the majority of my business, so my book is 10 years old. I started the company like 8 years ago. I was at another firm for a year and a half. I had a non-compete. So I had a 2-year non-compete. So I kind of like picked that book up after 2 years. So some of my oldest clients are 12 years old. Or 10 and a half years old. My newest clients are 2 weeks old, right? So it's all over the board. So a lot of stuff comes to me. I get referred a lot. Some of my clients they do HR for other companies, and so that's kind of a way to, I've been lucky to have clients that have products where they do like external HR, and so when this company is a search, they refer us. So that's been really helpful. But we are always in biz dev. We do it the old school way. We don't, I'm sure if you're on LinkedIn and if any other owners are listening to this, you're getting a message every 12 seconds from some 21-year-old who's telling you, not that the age matters. It could be from a 41-year-old, it could be from a 61-year-old saying like, hey, I can get you 20 new clients a month, sign up here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that they're, yeah. And I'm sure that that's a thing, but they're probably using this. They're probably just using robots to do what we do manually, which we still have a higher success rate. So I'm 35. I don't think I'm old school, but I think as the last generations kind of enter the workforce, I feel kind of like a dinosaur, but we do things the old fashioned way, man. It's just like a lot of biz dev, a lot of cold reach outs, a lot of, hey, you don't know me, but I've heard of you. Here's how I think we can help. And, we've signed, even in 2020, which is a really tough year, we signed more clients in 2020 than we did 2019. So, so it's been good. It's been busy. We're probably on pace to beat 2020's client numbers this year too. So it's just been kind of wild.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I keep seeing announcements that you're looking to hire more recruiters and research consultants and such. I mean, do you typically do placement fees and things like that? Do you embed yourself kind of RPO style? What's your model that you focus on?
We do placement fees. Okay. So we have a retained model and we have a contingency model. It just depends on how urgent our clients are. I today wrapped up a retained search. I started in March for a president search for a company. So it has a board and all that. And they're also like, thank you. But like those searches are great. They just take forever. They take a long time, especially when you're dealing with a board, especially with a government. We're working in the state of Michigan, so it just took forever. But we also do a lot of contingency stuff for clients that are, they said, hey, if you can find the right candidate before we can, we're willing to pay a fee. So that's how a lot of times it works for us.
Interesting, and not a lot of risk on their side. If that's the at least the initial relationship could start like that, and then once they see what you can do,
right,
we're thinking of you next time. And
exactly, and that's 97 and a half. And I haven't done the numbers in like a few months, but 98% of our clients that ask us for one search have us do a second. So the process works. We've got a pretty honed in no pun intended,
Hey.
process. See, I'm a brand guy. So, we have a decent process that I think works, and our clients, we're relationship driven. I mean, it's all the stuff you hear every other firm say. Everybody says the same things in a lot of ways. It's just a matter of who can deliver and who actually does it. So,
Well, it's interesting. I mean, when you say old school to me, that I jump back to conversations matter, human
yeah,
conversations, build rapport and
right,
relationships and all that good stuff. I feel like, we're trying to fight that good fight on our end as well. But, there
right,
are a lot of firms, to your point about kind of confusing automation with engagement and
right.
thinking shortcuts and not talking to candidates and putting work on candidates somehow can improve their odds of or numbers around placements and things like that. So yeah, that's why we enjoy talking to our customers, because everybody, it seems to be on the same page with talking to hiring managers is super important to create those relationships.
Right.
Talking to candidates is something that you can't automate or remove. You need to have those conversations
Yep.
to be able to create relationships that could last a lifetime, 10 years, right? Multiple
Right.
clients and multiple placements even.
I think too, like so this year has been really challenging from a recruiting standpoint, because there's not a lot of candidates that are, on the market or interested in new opportunities. And when you get them interested, their current employer, and you could talk ad nauseum about taking counter offers, but at the end of the day, like, companies are making stupid offers to candidates because they don't want to go through the process of having to find a replacement, right? And so, and I mean stupid from like the standpoint of it doesn't even make any sense. Like, it does not make the offer they're getting
Like
from
to
their
keep
company
them,
to keep
at
them.
the
Yeah.
company, like
Yeah,
counter
because
offers.
like
Yeah.
if we're working on a search in a remote area, which a lot of times we are, we find the candidate, we convince them to make the move. Our client pays a good wage and offers them a great package, and then their company beats that in an insane way, I mean, like in a wild way. And the client's like, the candidate's like, yeah, I mean, I understand that they could see I'm 1 foot out the door, but they're offering me stupid money to stay, and I know everybody here. So they're giving me these things that I've been asking for. They said no until I actually leave. Like, people are wanting remote work. People are wanting more flexibility. People are wanting whatever, and they're getting it now. But having said all that, like, we've only had this entire year, our close rate for offers extended to accepted and placed, people that actually like accept the offer and then move on, is 96%. We've had two.
Okay.
We have 2 people that have taken a counter and or declined out of all the places we've made. And so, like, or maybe not like 97%. The point is like, the only reason we're able to do that is because we build the relationships up front, and we know them so well. Like, we know the color of carpet in their house. Like, that's the level we get to know our candidates. And so if a counter offer does come, which inevitably it does, they've already made the decision in their mind, like, I'm bought into this new opportunity. I don't care what they say, because if they really valued me at that level, they would have paid me this when I asked for it 6 months ago.
What are some of the things? What are you teaching your or training, or is this part of recruiters at your firm to get to that kind of intimate conversation, or like understand their wants and their aspirations, like beyond just the typical cash motivate them? Okay.
So a lot of search firms are like this. So like, and if you're listening to this podcast and you're running a search firm like this, I'm not trying to be offensive, but this is how it works. Companies will say, get on the phone, call candidates, but I want these, how many submits you get this week, how many SO1s you get. And these are all important. Metrics are really important. We measure with metrics too. But what it does is it creates a standard of, I just need to get a candidate submitted. I need to get a candidate to the first interview. I got to get a candidate to the second interview. I got to get a candidate to an offer. And you're driving your business to these numbers without thinking about the product you're selling. Can say no. The product you're selling is a rational human being. And so when you miss those processes, you miss those parts you miss the whole point of what we do. And so what we do is we still manage people to those metrics. But I tell someone, if you're trying to hit 50 calls today and you're on a call with a candidate who's a good fit, and instead of that call going 25 minutes, it goes 45, because they want to tell you about their grandma's birthday party this weekend, then do that. Spend that 20 minutes doing that, because they're building a rapport with you and a relationship and trust. So when push comes to shove in 2 weeks, when they get an offer, you have more authority to speak into their lives than you would if you didn't. And that goes a long way. And so we still manage. I'm not saying we don't manage to numbers, because you can't manage what you can't measure, is what I believe. But at the same time, is I would rather my people have a low call volume day, but have 15 really good conversations than 51 really poor calls. And
What kind of
so,
are you coaching? Are there specific questions that you're teaching folks to ask to kind of go a little deeper in those areas, or
yeah, so that takes time, I think. Like we do, I mean, we have, and not to plug your product too much here, but like we have a lot of those questions built into our Hone It templates, especially for new hires that we have as we're hiring a lot of people. And they can easily like go through these questions and make sure they hit every one of them. And there's no reason not to hit a question. And I can tell, like, hey, why didn't you ask this question? Like it's right there. So yeah, we do have a series of questions we ask people, but ultimately it's the less talking you do, the more talking they will do. And so if you just shut up and let people, don't like silence, so they'll tell you something.
I'll tell you something they didn't mean to tell you, or wouldn't have told you unless you gave them that awkward pause. Yeah.
Right. Like the biggest question, man, and this is a tough one to lead off with, but like most recruiters don't want to kill the deal, right? You want to get your people moving down a pipeline. We all know how funnels work in sales. That's our whole goal, is to move people through the funnel. But like, if you ask questions that will try to kill the deal, like, would you accept a counteroffer? Yes. Why would you accept a counteroffer? Well, because I love working here. I go, then why don't you go ask for a raise? I hadn't thought about that. Okay, go ask for a raise and call me next week after you ask for the raise. Okay. Or, well, I'm a little afraid to ask for the raise. Why? My boss isn't approachable. Why isn't your boss approachable? And then they tell you what you want. Then the issue isn't, then there's counteroffers, not the risk, because then you jump down that road and you say, so it sounds to me that why you're even open to my phone call is because your boss isn't somebody that you really trust, or you don't think has your best interest at heart. And they're like, that's very true. So then it's not about a counter, because even if a counteroffer does come in 3 weeks when they get the offer, do you remember when I asked you about a counter and you said you'd take it, but then you also told me that your boss wasn't someone that you thought had your best interest at heart? And they're like, yeah, totally. And again, like at that point, we've had so many conversations that these people know you and they're texting you and they're telling you about their kids and whatever, but the relationship is built and the reason, the motivation is figured out. And then you just if there's ever a wavering, which there sometimes is, you just remind them of the motivation, and it's their word. It's not yours.
That's fantastic. I mean, you're doing a couple things too. I mean, that's information that your firm has or that you have that no other firm may have, right? So there's insight and there's competitive advantage there. And then they're also looking at you not as someone just to make a quick win on this particular search with this particular client, but someone that they can confide in about career questions and things like that. So even if they do get that offer, you help them make 10K or level up, they're going to stick around in 18 months. They're going to think of you. You're not going to be that every recruiter that just sent them 3 canned emails, automated emails or whatnot. So it's like a long game. I think that's super smart.
Right.
What are some, you mentioned metrics and analytics and KPIs. I mean, these are things that it's hard to avoid, but I love that you're kind of upfront about, hey, it's not only about the numbers. Can you confide in or share maybe what a couple of those KPIs could be for your firm if it's not, calls per day, submittals per day or something like that?
So I learned this early on is I would manage to effort, and the effort, in my experience, effort led to results. And before I was in executive search, I ran business units that had a ton of associates that were on the phone. And so we had all these metrics. We had 300 people that were underneath my purview. And so I could easily turn a dial and get a result. But what I missed was that what the former business I was running, what we were doing there was a lot different than this is. And so this job, this position, this role that we're in, not only do you need to do the effort to get the opportunity, right? Like you can't, it's like golf, it's like fishing, you have to keep at it and you have to learn it before you can, takes you 7 casts to get a fish, or it takes you, 4 shots, 4 times on a course to par the course. But what I missed was I was managing to the effort, and people were hitting their call numbers, but the results goals weren't piling in because they were so focused on getting their 75, 85, 95 calls a day that they weren't really thinking about I'm getting these numbers, and Adam said if I hit these numbers, and the success will come. Well, I was missing the parts of the job where it's, you have to be listening to people. You have to be building relationships. You have to be overcoming objections. You can't take no for an answer sometimes. Or if they ask no, you have to be bold enough to ask, well, why? Like this is an amazing opportunity. What's better about your opportunity? Or what's kept you at Hone It for 5 years? Why are you still there? And so what I started doing in the last couple of years was shifting my focus away from, effort's important. I'll say, like, do you want to hit these submit numbers? You got to hit the effort. But all I care about is how many candidates you submit this week. If you're starting out, or if you're more tenured with us, all I care about is how much you're billing this month. That's really all I care about. And how do we bill? So we work it backwards from there. So the goals aren't the talk time. The goal isn't the phone calls. The goal is how much do you bill? Or if you're in a recruiter role, the goal is how many candidates do you submit? How many interviews do you get? We work backwards. And so if your goal is to have 20 candidates interviewing this month, then we need how many submits? Well, we probably need 30 to 45 submits. Okay, well, how do we get there then? Well, we need 7 submits a week. Okay, well, how many calls do you think that's going to take you to get? So your mindset, the calls aren't the goal. And I think that's kind of where I have an opportunity as a leader to get better. When I started the company, and I was thought it was really standard, specific call, phone jobs, but this isn't that. This is a lot different. So that's a long-winded answer. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is that we work backwards. And so if you want to bill $50,000 a year, I could tell you what your numbers have to look like, but ultimately I'm focused on the submits. And when people are focused on that, if they have 30 calls in a day, when they're usually at 70, but they have 2 submits, that's a win. When alternatively, if they had 30 calls a day and 2 submits, they would feel like they failed. And if they had 70 calls with no submits, they feel like they were successful, which that's really inverse of each other, right? So long-winded answer.
No, and that's great. And then the other part that I'm thinking here, it's not just getting on the phone, it's also kind of finding the candidates, getting them on the phone, that kind of sourcing phase. Do you split it up at your firm? Do you have dedicated sourcers versus recruiter versus account managers? Do they run their own desk? How do you?
Yeah. So we're in the process of shifting all that around. One, I invest in the ability to find, we have tools we use to find numbers and email addresses really quickly. So, and it's not just like our CRM, because we heard about you guys because we use Loxo, and Loxo is good. It has some capabilities to find information, but ultimately we have other products that we use as well. That's just very easy.
Are these recruiting specific tools, or are these more general information databases?
Yeah, more general information databases. And then, so, because when I first started in the industry, and I tell new hires this all the time, like I'm 35, but it makes me sound like a really old person. But if I wanted to find somebody at the company, I would either find the phone number on Google Maps, and then I would manually dial that number on an actual physical phone. And then I would ask for someone in underwriting and just talk to whoever answered. When the people that were in that same firm were like, I would go and knock on people's doors at insurance companies. Like, we didn't have these phones, we didn't have the internet, but now it's like in 20 seconds, I can get a list of all the commercial underwriters in Dallas, or at least a number of them. And I can call them all today. Like, I can do that in 5 seconds. We pay a lot of money for it, don't get me wrong, but instead of hiring a researcher, I just hired the technology. I pay for the technology to be able to have our people do it. So we have 3 different levels in our company. We have like a practice director level, which is someone who's overseeing an entire industry. We have search consultants. I guess we have 4 levels. Search consultants, which kind of like find clients, find candidates, win job orders. They own the book of business, but they kind of report into each practice director who's been doing it longer, essentially. And then we have what we call senior recruiters, which are essentially account managers. What they do is they are given books of business from let's say it's from the practice director or the search consultant who's like, I'm not going to work this book that much. I got other stuff. We split the fees down the middle. And so,
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So good, kind of heavy.
Yep. And the senior recruiters are also managing the account. So they're calling the clients, just checking in. Hey, I remembered your birthday was this weekend. I hope you had a good birthday. Or, hey, here, or they're walking candidates all through the process, right? They're submitting them all the way through offers. So that's why they get like they get 50% of the commission. And then we have recruiters, what we call associate recruiters, who just do recruiting. So it's finding qualified candidates, having a couple conversations, vetting them, getting their resumes, passing them along to the senior recruiter or to the search consultant, who then finalizes the vetting and then passes and then walks the candidate through the process. So those are kind of the levels. We have it broken down. And the reason we do that transparently is just like earlier in, I would say, our economy, it was easier to find people that wanted to take that risk. Like, let me build my own book. Let me see how this is going to go. Things have changed a lot in a couple of years, COVID related, but now people like think they want more security. And it's also barrier to entry. Like, you got to find a killer to do that search consultant role. You don't have to find a killer to do the senior recruiter role. You can find someone that wants base salary, is fine with lower commission, but really good at selling, good at account management, good at account relationships and account health, but they don't want to be full commission. They don't want a heavy commission. They just want, they want to make a good base salary and make decent commission, and they're happy. And that's, that I think a lot of search firms miss the boat. They want to find those heavy hitters, which are great. If you can find them, fantastic. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for people that want a good base salary that also just are happy with a smaller commission, and they can make 80 to 120 doing that, and it's fine. So, long-winded answer again. There's themes here. But
great, thorough answers. I love it, Adam.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about biz dev. We talked about sourcing candidates. What's changed? Do you see what's your prediction for 2022? Are your clients going to return to work? Are they shifting to remote? Are they already lessening their requirements on location? I mean, some roles are just, they need to be on site. We talked to someone last week who does construction management recruitment, right? And
right.
The superintendents need to be on the project, and the estimators, are going to be on site. There's no avoiding that. But I guess, what are you seeing in your lens?
Yep. So again, I work with mostly finance professionals, and so some of these wealth management
internet access, computer, whether they're in an office at work or a home office, maybe.
Well,
less.
Some of them are super old school, man. They want people in the office, and they're gonna lose people. Like, I already know this fall is gonna be bonkers, because it depends what happens with Delta. Delta's throwing a wrench and everything, but a lot of my clients were going back to at least a hybrid through October. Like, you're in on Mondays and Wednesdays, you're off on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Next week you switch those days up, and they're having half the company come in, half the company stay home. I don't know if that's going to stay the same. I have clients that are moving to a hoteling model, to where they've downsized their offices significantly, and they will, on Mondays, one department has access to the space. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, every different department has access, but there's only enough for one team or one department. There's not enough for everybody. And they're like, we're saving $100,000 a month in rent, or saving $100,000 a month in property costs. Like, this is great. And we're still just as productive, and our employees are happier. So that's happening. I have clients that are going all the way back in, and they're just like, deal with it. And that's part of it too. Some companies, I just operate that way. And then I have other companies that are going fully remote. So it really is like, I think the biggest thing I'm seeing is companies are going to do a flex. I think that's basically the biggest thing I'm seeing, is companies are like, we're going to be offering, you can come in if you want, or you can come in 2 days a week and to be home 3 days a week. Or you can have a space. We have a space available for you if you're fully remote, but you want to come in because you need to get out of the house. Your kids are driving you nuts, or you really have to have a big day at work and you need to focus. There's, you can rent it. You can literally sign up for a space in our office, and it'll be your office that day. So,
yeah, I think it seems like any of those scenarios, though, you're going to have employees who are happy with that decision, and there's going to be a significant percentage of people who are upset with whatever the decision is. I think internal talent acquisition teams are going to be pulling their hair out for the next year and a half, just trying to keep up with, it used to be 17% attrition that filling and things like that, and then net new for growth companies and things like that. It seems like external recruiters are going to just have a field day over the next year and a half. I mean, we're already seeing, company earnings for some of the public recruiting firms just announced record profits these last few quarters in this last year. I don't see that changing. I feel like people who are well positioned with good clients who have built trust like yourself, you're going to have more recs than you know what to do with over the next 18 months.
That's what I think. I think that's true. The other thing I would add to that, though, is like so it's interesting. We have people, because my company, we're in office. Like, we can be remote if we need to be, if you have a doctor's appointment or you have a kid with a recital. But I'm just especially with our team is younger as far as like experience in the space, like in the recruiting space. The best way I learned was sitting across from this guy who was just billing 800 grand a year. Like I picked up so many things just listening to him on the phone. And I've been doing this for a while. I've got another person here named Nick. He's been doing this for a long time. So the value in just hearing us on the phone is there. Plus, it's hard to build rapport with your colleague. It's hard. This is a struggle. I mean, I understand the value of remote work for sure, and we offer it when you need it. But it's also like we're a small company. It's a grind. What we do is very hard. And if you're by yourself in an office making 60 calls a day, like it's going to be demoralizing when you have really bad days. And the good days are also not as good because no one's celebrating with you, right? Like we celebrate
you can't hear
everything.
that's happening. It's not just you. That's the nature of the business. You're hearing,
right.
You can laugh about it with your team. You can hang up the phone and go, I grew up in the bullpen. That would be very hard to learn. And it kind of leads me to this idea of like, who has the most to gain from this future of work, right? Remote work.
Right.
Big companies that have these incredible onboarding programs and unlimited budgets and, teams of training and learning development folks that can help optimize that experience and rotations and whatever you might do with unlimited, resources to be able to do that versus the startup who's not only trying to figure out their product and product market fit and their messaging and all these things that, maybe they skew younger with just less experience generally. And so that mentorship level to your point, or being able to echo or replicate or mimic the folks who are doing a great job, maybe that's harder. There's no
well, what's been interesting though is we've been hiring is we've been finding people who are, because we mostly look for people that are in sales or account, people that have been building relationships through an inside way is who ideally I look for, or servers, because servers are usually great.
But restaurant servers.
They're awesome.
Yeah,
they
hospitality, customer service.
The only reason I keep my card on me is because if I come across, sometimes I have a server that blows my mind. I'm like, long shot. Here's my card. If you ever want to get out of the industry, I can show you some. I can show you another way. But they've come to us. They said, I'm actually interested in going back to the office. My company's is sold all the office space. They're going fully remote, and like that's not me. I cannot be doing this job sitting in my room. Or I can't be doing this job being at like, hey, can you go pick the kids up from school because you're home? I need to be somewhere where I can focus on work. So it's been interesting because though there are people that will say, hey, can I work remotely? I'm like, yeah, well, you need to, but overall we're here. They're like, well, I want to be somewhere that can be remote more than that. I'm like, okay, well, it's probably not the right fit. But at the end, the other side, we found people that are like, I want to be in the office. So it's very interesting. It's really created, I think, a different dynamic as far as like what people are looking for.
It kind of brings me back. I had a good friend. I was working in recruiting right out of college. And so just kind of this was my world. And then had a friend who was a couple of years behind me, got his first job offer at a big company, and he was trying to negotiate, first job, like no leverage. Right. And he was trying to negotiate for an extra week of vacation. And I was going like, I was just like, the signals that might send, right, is just like, I'm my first job, but I kind of want to work less, actually.
Right.
It's just 100%. Kind of strange lever to pull on the first
call. Right.
Well, I was going to ask you a couple of things you mentioned, in terms of creating relationships, building trust, being able to, asking those really interesting questions during calls with candidates to extract those responses about ambitions, things that they wouldn't just tell anybody unless trust had been established. And then also this idea of being able to hear what a great call sounds like. Are you finding that being able to go back on Honeit calls and listen to some of that stuff, 2 weeks later is helpful? Do you ever do that? Do you ever share your calls with your junior associates so they can hear what a great call sounds like? Just
So your support team probably hates me because I'm always sending them links being like, can you reactivate this link because it's over 30 days old or whatever. Which I know there's a feature I can make it longer. So I need to do that on my end. But so for training, Honeit's been, our clients love it. And so that's one thing, but for training, I think it's even more important because I can give my new hires calls to listen to. I can build, like, what's underrated is the call. You build your, the call form that you guys have, you can build those out. So like I have a new employee recruiter. She's first day on the phone this afternoon, and she's literally just going through when she's doing these calls. We're calling people, getting them on the phone. Yeah, we can talk. Then we're calling them back and hone it. And then she's just going through these questions, and she's got everything she needs on one page. She takes notes. I mean, I think on this podcast, she sent me 2 candidates she wants me to submit already. I mean, she's been on the phone for 2 hours, and I think,
Wow.
not to sell you guys too much, right? Because it'd be too easy if you had a raving review like this. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, what I didn't foresee Hone It being. I thought just from our client perspective, they would love it, and they do. But I think from a training perspective, it's worth its weight in gold for us, truly.
Wow. So a new recruiter, and you're hiring servers or folks outside of recruitment, right? This might be their first job.
This is their first recruiting job for sure.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
I mean, it's just an easy way to do it. You can go through the whole call and create a good profile of somebody really, really well.
Yeah. And then if you have access to then review some of those calls, provide some feedback, give a little direction. I mean, that's just without when we started, your boss was sitting next to you, leaning over your shoulder, listening to every call. And that was like, obviously pressure, quick learning, but also a lot of pressure when you're getting started. So.
Right. For sure.
Well, Adam, I mean, I feel like you're wise beyond your years in terms of recruitment and hiring and everything that you're doing. And I'm so happy to see that the firm is growing, and like every new post about hiring another recruiter just gets me excited to see you scale. So we're here if you need anything. Again, we're all ears when it comes to feedback. We've loved your ideas and suggestions for the Hone It platform so far, and keep them coming. So
for sure, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Adam. We'll be in touch. Let's talk again.
All right, man.
Okay. Cheers.
See ya.